Okay. Hi everyone. Very nice to see you all. So we are about 18 participants now. Let's wait for a few more minutes and then we can start. Meanwhile, you can tell us how is your week going? How was your week? You can let us know in the comment box. Meanwhile, let's wait for more people to join in. Yeah. So, yeah, tell us how has been your week? How is it? Sunny, cloudy, rainy, cold? Okay, for Sister Isabella, yeah, hectic. Okay, okay. How about everyone else? How has been your week? It's been a rainy, cold week in Bangalore. Yeah, true. It's been a sunny day for Rupa. Okay, great. For Alka, it has been fantastic week. That's amazing. I'm very happy to hear that. For Jyoti, it's full of learning, so sunny in that way. Great. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, for Lenin, it has been cloudy and cold. Yes. Okay. So I think, yeah, it's about 4-3 now. I think we can kickstart. Meanwhile, let's have more people join in. Um, Yeah, so welcome to today's session, everyone. My name is Laiman Brahma, and I am a part of capacity building team in Quest Alliance. First of all, I want to wish you all a very happy Durga Puja. I know that many of you are celebrating at home, but you still took out some time to join us today. So thank you very much for joining us and for your time. I am sure we will have a very great time together. Before I move forward, I just want to inform you that this session is going to be 90 minutes, unlike the 60-minute session that we have, because of the fact that we are really going to deep dive into the topic and understand and explore the levels in learning spaces, right? So, yeah, feel free to grab a cup of tea, coffee, have water by your side. And I really look forward to you all sticking through. With this, I welcome to you all once again to this masterclass on exploring and unpacking levels in learning spaces. So, moving forward, um, yeah. So this masterclass is organized by Trainer Tribe. Trainer Tribe is an online learning community and initiative of Quest Alliance. So in case you want to share your experience about this masterclass in your social media handles, please feel free to use hashtag Trainer Tribe, this being our official hashtag. So you are aware by now that the host has muted you already. This is just to ensure that we do not get distracted by any background noise and we can have a very engaging and meaningful session throughout. So please ensure that you keep yourself muted throughout. But yeah, feel free to use the chat box often. You can always leave your thoughts, opinions, any comments. Your question shall be addressed towards the end of the session. So those of you who are joining us for the first time, Quest Alliance is non-profit organization. We foster 21st century skills among young people by transforming learning ecosystems across the school to work continuum. And we do it by using educational technology, capacity building, partner collaborations, and advocacy to create real impact that changes life. So as of 2020, we have about 6 partnerships with Directorate of Employment and Training for Youth Programs, 9 partnerships with state education departments under secondary schools program, 2 partnership with state SSA for Ananshala, and 1 partnership with Ministry of Skills Development and Entrepreneurship. Through this partnership, we have impacted about 1,641 government schools and 4 lakh plus students, having worked with around 40 plus training partners, 400 plus training industrial training institutes, and about 6 state governments with MOU signed. And we have reached about 12 states and 1,30,000 young people. So, yeah, let me take a moment to thank all our donors and partners for their continuous support and for actually spreading the word and getting you folks around here. So coming to the most exciting and most awaited part of the session, we have Ranjitha with us, who is the certified trainer at the Center for Nonviolent Communication. So Ranjitha, thank you very much for spending and agreeing to engage this masterclass with us, for spending a Friday evening with us. We are all very excited and looking forward. So with this, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to take a moment to start sharing my screen. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Ranjitha, and I am a certified trainer with the Center for Nonviolent Communication. I teach something that's called nonviolent communication. And today we're going to be exploring a topic that's called exploring this topic, which is exploring and unpacking labels in learning spaces. And of course, I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So during this session, please feel free to put in any questions or responses or thoughts that you have in the chat. I think Lyman is going to be monitoring them. And if there are questions, I'll be very happy to take them towards the end of the session. And at any point, if you'd like me to slow down or if you'd like me to repeat something, please put that into the chat as well. And Lyman, if you'd be willing to bring that to my attention so that I can go back to whatever material needs to be repeated.
Sure.
Would that work? Yes, thank you so much. So I'm going to start by sharing briefly what nonviolent communication is. So nonviolent communication is a framework developed by an American called Marshall Rosenberg. And it's both a set of tools as well as a kind of practice or a consciousness that we can kind of adopt in our own relationships. Nonviolent communication helps us get in touch with our own capacity for empathy. There might be situations where, even the most empathetic of us feel stressed, where perhaps we feel we have a sense that we're not able to handle the stress of the moment. And nonviolent communication is designed to help us access our capacity for empathy and deepen our empathy both for ourselves and for others during these, especially during these times. Um, During this session, this is what we're going to do. We're going to explore labels, take a look at some of the labels that we have for ourselves and for others. We're going to understand why we label. We do talk about labels as educators, and we're going to try and understand why we tend to label learners in our groups. And after we do that, we're going to take a look at the labels that we've identified and unpack them to find valuable information. Because I do believe that these labels contain some very important information for us. So the last part of this session is going to be about how can I understand, how can I unpack it to look at what do I need to be actually paying attention to with this label. With that, let's begin. I'd love to begin with a short check-in. So if you're on Zoom, I'd love to hear how you're feeling right now. Please put in a short word or a phrase that describes how you're feeling into the chat. Um, okay, Lemon, I'm having a bit of trouble accessing the chat. Is it okay for you to read out a few of the responses that have come in?
Yes, yes, I can
Yes,
do that.
thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So it says slightly weary at the end of a working week, eager, happy,
All right.
curious,
Mm-hmm.
eager to know and learn more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. If there's more, please share how you're feeling on the chat window.
Optimistic is one response.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So I'd like to move on from there. If you'd still like to check in at this point and share how you're feeling, please continue to do that. Lemon is going to be looking at the chat, so you can put that in. So I'm going to begin by inviting you to look at some labels that perhaps a label in your life that has stayed with you. It could be a label that you were given in school or in your family. Look at a label that has stayed with you either because you have a strong memory of people using that label to describe you, or because it's a label that has kind of stayed with you in the sense that several people in your life have assigned that label to you. So I'd like you to go to menti.com and use the code that you see on the screen. That's 1707330, and type in possibly the top 3 labels that come to your mind that you've been assigned in your life. So you can see the link and the code to log in on your screen. Go to menti.com and put in the code that you see on your screen and enter what are some of the labels that have stayed with you. Because you remember somebody calling you that, or because many people in your life have given you that label, described you using that label. So if you're having any trouble accessing menti.com, please put that into the chat if you need any support with getting there. Then go to menti.com, use the code 1707330. Yes, so I'm seeing some of them coming in: courageous, compassionate, confident, listener, and often, very often the labels that are assigned to us may not be positive in the sense of describing something that others enjoy about us. I see silent, shy, introvert, all rounder, insufficient, yeah, slow, average, idiot, funny, courageous. I'm going to give it another minute. If there's more, please put that in now. Short-tempered, lovely, caring, brave, useless, thief, role model, awesome, reclusive. I see the word Chopatlal. I have no idea what it is. Moody, yeah. For those of you who've just joined in, if you'd like to go to menti.com and answer this question, what are some labels in your life that have stayed with you? Yes, I see dreamer, creative, leader, stupid, happy, smart, unlucky, enthusiastic, energetic, irresponsible, fighter, strong, powerful, loving, blessing. All right, yes, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing all of these. I see this whole bunch of qualities that are described here. Some of them are what we would call positive labels. Some of them are what we would call labels that are actually critical of us, that criticize something. And whether, once the labels assigned to us, we sometimes end up carrying it through our lives, through years, and perhaps sometimes even decades. Selfish, I see a new one out here. Yes. All right. So thank you so much for participating in this. Um, so here's the thing. As educators, we come across many different types of learners. And in every group, there's bound to be someone or the other that, there's bound to be some learner or the other who we have some sort of a challenge connecting with. This could be because of the learner's background, This could be because of their learning style. Perhaps the learning style is different from the learning styles we're used to, and so we have challenges connecting with them in a group. Or it could also be because sometimes a learner or a certain set of learners do or say things that make it more challenging for us to keep the focus of the group. Uh, have you had experience of having learners that you've had challenges connecting with in your groups? If you have, then do put it into the chat. I'd love to see it. Yes, I see someone saying yes. Yeah. And in any space, in any learning space that's diverse, I think this is really bound to happen. It's not something that we can avoid. Every group, more or less, every group tends to have a learner who I might have a challenge connecting with. And, when this happens, we end up assigning labels to them. Whether we say the labels out loud or not, whether we actually state the labels out to them or not, and whether we are conscious of making that label or not. We do sometimes end up assigning labels to them. And the labels that we actually assign to these learners can impact how we continue to engage with them in our learning spaces. So when I give someone a label that says slow or lazy, to take a couple of the examples that showed up in the word cloud, that does kind of influence how I engage with that particular learner. So I'd like you now to take a minute to identify a learner, or this could be either an individual learner you have in mind or a kind of learner that you have challenges connecting with. In a minute, you're going to be assigned to breakout rooms. So in the breakout rooms, I'd like you and your partner to discuss this. A learner, identify a learner or a type of learner that you have difficulty connecting with. What is the label that you've assigned to this learner? We saw some examples of labels come up on the screen a little while ago. Those were labels that we had experienced as being assigned to us. I'd like you now to identify labels that you may have assigned to a learner, whether you've said it out loud or not, whether you've actually said it out loud to the other person or not. And then to discuss what is the challenge that this learner poses to you? What is the challenge that this learner is bringing to your group that's kind of causing some amount of stress in you? So we'll have about 10 minutes for this breakout activity, which means if you're a pair, each of you gets 5 minutes to share. So in a minute, you'll go into a breakout room. If you'd like, you can take a screenshot of this so that you have this for reference when you go out into the breakout room. And each of you has about 5 minutes to share. Are we ready with the breakout rooms?
Yes, Ranjitha, I'm just opening it.
Yes, let's go. And if you're new to Zoom, in a minute, you'll see a pop-up that says the host is inviting you to a breakout room. Please click accept and enter the room.
Hello.
Hi, Jyoti.
Hi. Yeah, I was in some room. Well,
I was also in some other room. I was
okay.
alone for a long time. Now I
All
came
right.
here, I was alone here as well.
Great.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah,
thanks.
can we discuss what
Yeah,
we
sure.
discussed?
Sure.
Sure.
Would you like to go first or should I go?
You can go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So, a learner, a type of learner I have a difficulty is I work with teachers.
Sure.
I'm into administration and
Mm-hmm.
also teacher trainer. I have a difficulty in connecting with my personal assistant.
Okay.
The label I have assigned uh, to her is in my mind slow
Mm-hmm.
and can't understand at one go, needs repetition.
Right.
And what is a challenge this learner poses to me is she challenges my innate need to move quickly,
Hmm.
need for speed.
Right. Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for me also, I work with teachers, right? Um, and and we do this teachers training with various ecosystems. So far, when I was working with, particularly last year, I faced a challenge like some teachers are like, I have been teaching in this field for so and so years, and how can someone give me that kind of training now when I have already 30 or 40 years of experience already, right? um, so yeah, automatically I think the label that we give is uh, he is arrogant or something like that. So uh, I think that is something that instead of trying to understand where he is coming from, um, yeah, we just tend to come to conclusion saying that this person is so and so.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what is the challenge that this learner is posing to you?
Yeah, so basically it's like the challenge is to convince them and say that that this course is, say example, I am working with the trainers of ITIs, right? And the training that we give is not on the technicality, not on the technical aspect, but on the more like life skills training kind of. So we need to convince them saying that we are not here to give you technical trainings, because that is something that you already have, but our training is something else. So yeah.
It's interesting. So
what
since
what
we have,
yeah, go ahead.
yes, we have 2 more minutes, maybe another category I could quickly share.
Sure.
Another category of learners where I find it difficult to connect with is those that bring out problems in every solution. They're generating
Yeah.
solutions and they're
True.
finding a problem in that solution. So the label that I have in my mind is problem creator. As soon as I start the meeting, in my mind I've already labeled
Okay.
problem creator
Yeah.
will find
Got it.
something. And the need, this challenge is that I have this innate requirement of getting on with things, just move. Now how do you move? You have to find solutions, so which is a strong need.
Hmm.
And so this challenges my innate need for finding solutions. You just don't arrive at solutions, you'll find another problem in that. So in but on the outside I can't state it, I can't say it,
Hmm.
but inside it builds in a lot of irritation. I'm like, why can't people just come to solutions? Why do they
Hmm.
stick to problems?
Hmm.
Yes,
Right.
that is an area of
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is like the tendency, right? Instead of we trying to um, get to know where that person is coming from, it's just that we are so automatic in assuming, okay, this
Yes,
person is this and that. We hardly take time to deep dive into from what is his understanding and where does he
Yes.
stand. So
Yes.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
see going forward what
Sure.
Ranjitha has to share with us.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too.
Where are you from?
I am from Bangalore.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
nice. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah, okay.
Great. Okay. See you
See you. Yeah.
again. Yeah.
Yes. Ranjita, everyone is back from the breakouts.
All right. Yes.
You can
Thank
go.
you so much. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for coming back. I'd like to hear from you how that experience was, what came up in your conversation in the breakout room. So if you could just put something into the chat, um, you could answer any of these three questions that are up here on your screen on the chat to just share with the rest of the group how what you've identified during this exercise. And I'd also like to invite one or two people to unmute yourself and share briefly what you discussed in your breakout room. So if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand and someone will unmute you and you can share with the group. So what did you discuss in your breakout rooms? What were some of the labels that you identified in the breakout rooms? So you can share your responses in the chat, or if you'd like to speak in the group, then you could unmute, you could raise your hand so that the host can unmute you. I see Vasudha says, learners are not confident to ask questions and fearful of making mistakes. Yes, thank you, Vasudha. Yeah. So possibly the label you've identified is underconfident or lacks confidence. Poonam, if you raise your hand on Zoom, then you'll be unmuted. I'm guessing only the host is allowed to unmute. Vidya says difficulty connecting with students who lack motivation or are unresponsive. So yes, lacking motivation, unresponsive. These are some labels as well. Brinda says the child was labeled as a snob, aloof, and stubborn by both children and the teacher. When the teacher, Puka Singh, discovered about the emotional turmoil the child was going through, she changed things. Yes, and Brinda, I like what you're sharing because it gives us a hint that there is another way of looking at behavior than just labeling and taking a different perspective to looking at why somebody may be behaving the way they're behaving can help us find a way to address the situation. Is there anyone else who'd like to share?
Hello,
Yes, hi. Could you say your name and then answer?
hello.
Hi, I can hear you. Can you say your name and then share your response?
रंजीता जी नमस्कार, मेरा नाम पूनम है।
Yes, hi Poonam.
मैं गवर्नमेंट आईटी गुड़गांव से बोल रही हूँ।
Yes, please go ahead.
रंजीता जी, जब आपने ब्रेकआउट रूम में सेंड किया था तो मेरे साथ आजाद जी थे। आजाद जी ने मुझसे शेयर किया था कि ऐसे क्या चैलेंजेस आते हैं हमारे सामने तो मैंने उनको बताया था कि सर मेरे सामने जो चैलेंजेस आते हैं वो ऐसे ट्रेनीज के आते हैं जो बहुत ही शाई होते हैं और वो बहुत कम बोलते हैं। तो जब हम उनको कुछ सिखाना चाहते हैं तो उनकी तरफ से जवाब कम आते हैं, तो हमें ये नहीं पता चलता कि वो कितना, हम जो उनको सिखाना चाह रहे हैं वो कितना सीख रहे हैं, क्योंकि फीडबैक नहीं होता है। तो इस कारण से तो ऐसे जो स्टूडेंट होते हैं उनको हम लेबल दे सकते हैं शाई, रिजर्व नेचर, और वो क्योंकि वो उतना घुल मिल नहीं पाते हैं तो उस वजह से वो अपनी क्लास में भी, और इवन अगर वो इसी तरह से आगे नहीं सीखते हैं तो आगे लाइफ में भी उनकी लाइफ जितनी बेटर हो सकती है उतनी बेटर नहीं हो पाती है। मैम मेरे को और आजाद जी ने बताया था कि उनको ये दिक्कतें आती है कि जो वो ट्रेनिंग देते हैं तो जो लर्नर्स होते हैं वो ऐसे लर्नर आ जाते हैं, मतलब आते नहीं, मतलब अपने आप ही ऐसे होते हैं कि उनका माइंड सेट होता है, तो वो अपनी एक जर्नी में होते हैं कि जो उन्होंने सीखा हुआ होता है वो वहां तक ही सीखे हुए होते हैं और वो रिजर्व होते हैं और उनका माइंड वहां तक सीमेंटेड हो जाते हैं, जिससे कि वो जो नए प्रोस्पेक्टिव्स होते हैं उनको नहीं सीख पाते हैं, तो उनको डिफिकल्टी आती है उनको सिखाने में।
Thank you. So I think some of the labels I heard were silent, shy, reserved, or introverted. And what I'm getting is that when a student is reserved or introverted, the challenge that is that it's really hard to get feedback about what we're sharing has actually been conveyed to the student, or that they've been able to grasp what has been shared. Vasudha, parental pressure to perform. Yeah, is that the label you've assigned to someone in the group? And Alka, I think Alka wanted to share something. If you'd like to share now.
Yes. Hello, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, Alka, I can hear you.
Yeah, actually, while giving the classes and all that, we were having lots of problems and challenges were there. Like connectivity issues were there. Some of the students, they don't have the Android phone with them, and if they were having one phone in a family, and that phone was always with their father. So when we are taking classes, they are not supposed to attend the classes. So what we have done that we have asked the parents that when are you coming back to the house. So sometimes we are giving lectures or our classes at late nights also, because phone was at that time at their houses. Yeah, and if a family is having 3 or 4 children, so sometimes students, my students used to say me कि मैम मेरे छोटे वाले भाई का क्लास है तो अभी मैं नहीं अटेंड कर पाऊंगी, तो आप मुझे बाद में टाइम तो we were so open to the children that, and that was challenging also, and that was another type of learning process for me to reach their houses. अब जब हम उनके घर में फोन करते थे तो उनकी मम्मा को भी हम हेलो बोल देते थे, उनसे भी पूछ लेते थे, तो that was a good also. And sometimes we were feeling कि देखो ऐसी इतनी we are living in capital city, and though students are not having that connectivity, and sometimes they don't have the money to put the data in their phones and all that. So these were the challenges and these were the difficulties which we were having in connecting the people. So but we are happy that we have got the ways to reach them out. So thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that, Alka. I guess now with a lot of learning going online, it's an added challenge for anybody who's in an educator's role. So thank you for sharing us
thank you
of that.
Thank you.
So all right, thank you so much, everyone. I'd like you now, if you've identified a label that you've assigned to any learner or a type of learner in your learning spaces, I'd like you to write that down for now. We'll be returning to that in a little while to see what information does this label contain. So please take a moment to write that down for yourself, and then we'll come back to that in a bit. So before we even explore this idea of why do we label, I'd like to invite you to participate in a small activity. I'm going to show some pictures on the screen, and as soon as you see the photo, I'd like you to put into the chat what you're seeing in the picture. What's happening in the photo? Are you ready to go? Please give me a thumbs up response if you're ready to begin this activity. Yes, thank you. I see some yeses. Thank you very much. So let's start. I'm going to show you the first photo. And as soon as you see this, I'd like you to put in the first thing that comes to your mind. What do you see in the photo? What do you see here? So what do you see here? Please put it into the chat. Yes, Wintlin says happiness, smile, happy learning, mother caring. Anyone else? What are you seeing? Facilitating learning. Yes, Rajni says happiness. Good bond. Child is enjoying learning, nurturing. Perfect learning, guidance, joyful learning. Yes, so many responses. A girl with a pencil and an older female pointing something out. Okay. So I'm going to move to the next photo now. Please let me know, what do you see here? What's happening in this photo? What's happening in this photo now? Protest, awareness. Any more responses? Stand out, anger and rebels, protest, agitation, lobby, dissent, community. All right, let me go to the next one. What do you see here? What's happening in this photo? What do you see? Romance, bond, lovers, love, nature and bonding, togetherness, love, two people, patriarchy, intimacy, happy moments, sharing, lots of different responses to this one. All right, thank you so much. So what just happened here? I'd like to kind of draw your attention to what just happened. Okay, let's just go with this last one. What do you see here? What's happening in this photo? Meeting, presentation, monotonous, target. Lots of people saying presentation, brainstorming, conference, meeting, business meetings, planning, explanation, product than process, learning, conference, yes. So thank you. Thank you for participating in that. What just happened? So this is part of understanding why do we label, yeah? So what happened here is that when I showed you these pictures, your brain kind of picked up pieces of information from the photos that you were able to see. It collected some pointers of data, and then it kind of put that data together to draw a conclusion from it. So in this photo, the data that I might be seeing could be that there's a young girl who's smiling. She's holding a pencil in her hand. And beside her, there's a lady who's also smiling. The lady is pointing at a notebook that the younger girl is holding, that the younger girl is writing, seems to be writing on. Now, these are actually the data or the facts that I've actually been able to see in this photo. My brain has put these pieces of data together to make a certain kind of meaning, to make a certain kind of interpretation or an understanding of what's happening. So when I see a young girl holding a pencil, and a lady who's sitting next to her and pointing at her notebook, I might think that this is a mother and a child. The mother's helping the child do the homework. I think that's one of the responses that came in. Or I might think that this is a teacher who's helping the child with doing some homework, classwork. So my brain is taking many little pieces of information and putting them together to create this picture or this meaning or understanding of what is happening. Same in this photo. I see someone holding up a placard which says "Stop Coal Now." And because of what I see, I'm putting two and two together, and my brain is telling me that this is a climate change protest. Very similar with this one as well. And in this, I see people sitting around a table. There's one person who's standing in front of a screen. So this is the data I'm seeing. And my brain is telling me what this means is that this is a conference or it's a meeting, it's a presentation. I think somebody even said it's a target. Somebody's setting a target, right? So when we're surrounded by a lot of information, our brain has a way of picking up this data and making meaning of this data. And once I have all of this data, I might draw some sort of a conclusion from it. This very often is an important skill that we need if we want to navigate the world. Because every day while I'm going around, I am kind of picking up bits of data and making an assumption. Do I take a left here? Do I take a right here? What am I seeing in front of me? We keep doing this all the time. This is a very essential skill we have. And there are some times that the skill doesn't actually help us. So there are some times when this really helps. For example, if I see a pole with a red light on it when I'm driving, what I understand is that it's not time for me to go yet. I'll have to stop and wait for my turn to go ahead. This is important. It's important for my own safety and for the safety of others around me. However, sometimes this skill doesn't really help us. And that is in relationships, and especially in learning relationships, when we have small bits of data and we draw meaning from that to create a label for someone else, then it may not help us to see the other person or their perspective fully. So for example, if I see that a child has written only 3 answers in the exam and not 6, I might think this child is a slow student. This, and we'll get a little bit from now, we'll get into why this is not very helpful. This is a concept called the ladder of inference that I came across recently. And it explains very well why labels can be pretty harmful in certain relationships. So when I have a certain, an actual experience, when I experience something, I choose some bits of data. For example, when I saw the last picture that came up on the screen, I saw the screen, I saw a person standing in front of it, I saw people sitting around a table. I see bits of data. I add meaning to it. So based on the data I'm seeing, I'm adding a certain meaning or saying, wow, that must be a conference. They must be setting targets. I make assumptions. Based on the meaning I add, I make assumptions of what I've seen. From my assumptions, I draw conclusions. From my conclusions, I start to build my own beliefs. And from my beliefs, my actions begin. Which means to say that the beliefs or the labels, the conclusions, the assumptions, all of these, when I use these to assign labels to a student, my action, the way I act towards a student, the way I engage with a student can be very much influenced by the label that I've assigned to them. And again, it comes back as a reflexive loop, because when I'm able to, when I start acting based on my own biases, then I'm also able to only see certain parts of an experience. I'm only able to see certain parts of how the student shows up in my classroom that actually match with my experience. I may not actually be paying attention to anything else that the student is doing. We'll talk about that a bit more in the next slide. Yes, VS, it is called the ladder of inference. And if you're interested, please do look it up. I'm not going to go too much into detail on this right now, but you can look it up. There's a lot about it online and how the ladder of influence determines our decision making and our actions. So why, I said earlier that in certain relationships, especially in a learning space, labeling may not be very helpful. Why is that? It's because when we label, we take the tip of the iceberg to be the whole. So I'm actually seeing out of maybe 100% of a child's actions or a learner's actions, I'm seeing about 5% of the actions and saying, this person is slow, this person is shy, this person is average. So I'm actually taking the tip of the iceberg and assuming that's all there is to this human being who's in front of me. It also oversimplifies. So when I believe that a learner in my group is slow, when I believe that a learner in my group is troublesome, whatever that person does, I could tend to, I tend to begin explaining that by saying, oh, this student does this because he's slow, or this student does this because they're a troublemaker. That's just how they are. So instead of looking at what's actually happening in a particular situation, I might have a tendency to oversimplify and say this is happening because this person is lazy, slow, average. Oh, didn't submit homework. That's because this student is irresponsible. So I'm not actually looking at what is it that keeps this person from submitting their homework, but I'm making some sort of an assumption or an oversimplification based on my own bias. The label I have also determines the emotional tone or the approach I take with a student. So if I think somebody is irresponsible, then I may not actually be, I may not find it in myself. I may not have the capacity in that moment to be compassionate towards them because I've decided that they're irresponsible. So it kind of determines that it shows up in how I interact with the person. And the labels also keep us attached to a particular viewpoint, which means that somehow I've kind of convinced myself that the student is average or irresponsible, and I'm attached to that student being that same way all through. There's no space for movement in that, or nor is there space for me to look at other instances where that student has not been so-called irresponsible. So I'm attached to this idea that a student is irresponsible. So I'd like you to, we identified some labels some time ago. I'd like you to work on those labels a little bit, take a couple of steps towards understanding what information this label holds for us. So what I'd like you to do now is return to the label that you've identified. About 10 to 15 minutes ago, you recalled a label that you've assigned to a participant in your learning spaces. So return to the label you've identified. And now this is an important step for me. When I am thinking that the person is irresponsible, I want to return to the data. I want to remove the meaning and return to the data that I've actually observed, which means what did the other person do or say? What data do I have that led me towards this conclusion that the other person is either irresponsible or slow or average? So please think of what you saw, what you heard, and what you remember. We're going for facts, very observable facts, minus the conclusion that we've reached. So I'd like you to take about 2 minutes to identify this. And when you're ready, you could put in what the data is that you've identified into the chat box. So to summarize, once again, return to the label that you've identified for a learner in your space. What did you see the other person do or say? And here, I'd like you to get very specific with what data you've identified. So it could mean that a student came, logged into class without having done their homework for 3 days in a row. That's the kind of specific data I'm looking for. So yes, if you've identified it, please put it into the chat so you can So I'd like to take a look at it as well. So I see someone who says behavioral issues. Again, I'm going to encourage you to say what exactly you mean when you say behavioral issues. As an example, I could share when the whole class is asked to mute themselves, the student unmuted themselves and started speaking. So try and get specific about what the student did or said. Yes, so yes, the child had quarrels with fellow classmates, yeah. And the child chose to be alone, maybe chose to be alone at lunchtime. Child did not submit homework even after 2 reminders were sent, for example. Yes, that's great. I'm going to wait another maybe a minute for some more responses, and then we'll move on. So yes, when you say this, I see a response that says the child distracts other children. Can you get more specific? Maybe it means when the other children are working on their maths homework, the child is singing a song, for example. VS says, when I tried to connect, they just responded curtly and continued what they're doing. Okay, I'm going to wait for another 1 or 2 responses more. Not valuing resources, that's a response that's come in. Could you share what exactly the other person, the student did that led you to the conclusion that they're not valuing resources? Again, getting to the specifics of what the behavior was. What did they do? What did they say? Child bunking classes. Okay, maybe the child bunked 3 classes in the last 4 days. All right, thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, the child is moving around instead of sitting in their spot. Even after I tell the child that to sit down or to keep quiet, they're making sounds. Okay, so I'm going to move on from here. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing this. And now that we've identified what exactly the behavior is, the next step is really to look at what is motivating this behavior. Where is this behavior coming from? As long as I assign a label to someone, I believe that the person, this example that someone just gave in the chat about even after being told to keep quiet, the child continues to make a sound, right? In my head, I could label this child as a troublemaker because they're not listening to me, or disobedient. And whenever the child does something, I believe that it is motivated, that behavior is motivated by the child's trait of being a troublemaker. So essentially, the child is making a noise because they're a troublemaker. That's one way of looking at labels. Now, there's another way, and this is perhaps a deeper way of looking at what motivates behavior. So, what I'd like to encourage you to see is, okay, I'm trying to just having a moment's problem with my share screen in any case. So what I mean when I say what's another way of looking at what motivates our behavior is, instead of looking at the label as a motivator of behavior, what if we looked a little deeper to understand what is motivating this person to do what they do, right? So And this is where, for me, nonviolent communication really helps to understand and make a connect. In the nonviolent communication framework, the central philosophy is that every single thing that we do or don't do, every single thing that we say or don't say, is motivated by some kind of need within us, right? So this means, to give you a very simple example, if I'm drinking a glass of water, I'm motivated by some need within me. What could that need be? If I feel like having a plate of food, I'm motivated by some need inside me. That need could be hunger. If I want to sleep, I'm motivated by some need inside of me. And that need could be rest. So instead of looking at the labels themselves as something that's motivating someone's behavior or the entirety of a person's behavior, I want to encourage you to look one level deeper to look at what is motivating this person's behavior. And what do I mean when I say needs? So needs are certain qualities that we all like as human beings like to have in our existence. And all of our actions are kind of geared towards having, in some ways, having this quality, to achieving this or to fulfilling this quality for us. So take a look on the screen. I've put up a list of needs. Some of these are very basic and we're always aware of, for example, air, water, food, shelter, rest, physical safety. And some are not always so obvious. And still, we're constantly making some attempt to meet a need. So every single thing I do or don't do, every single thing I say or don't say is always an attempt to meet a need. I want to pause here to check if there are any questions on this particular point of needs, of needs that motivate our human behavior. If there's any questions, please put them into the chat and I'll take them now. Yes, so Vidya has a question. She asks, does this hold good for adults as well? As far as I'm concerned, this hold goods for every human being on this planet. All of us are constantly making attempts to meet needs. And what you see on the list is just a beginner's exploration of a list of needs. There are way more needs than this, and we're constantly attempting to meet them. So everything I do, everything you do is an attempt to meet a need. Now, why am I talking about needs in the context of labels? We talked a little while ago about how looking at someone through the lens of labels reduces them to one dimension. It kind of takes the tip of the iceberg to be the whole. Looking at someone through the lens of needs really helps me to kind of walk towards where is this person coming from when they're doing or saying what they did. And this can be extremely important, especially when I have difficulty in kind of experiencing that behavior the other person is doing. I may not like their behavior, and at the same time, if I'm able to try and understand what needs might this person be meeting when they're doing this, then it can actually help me to see them with a different perspective and understand what they're experiencing. So just take a look at this list of needs here. And again, for me, it's, getting to the level of needs, looking at the behavior, identifying the behavior, and then saying, I wonder what needs this person might be meeting, really helps me to understand where they're coming from. And as long as I'm making a label of someone, I'm kind of stuck in that perspective of this is the label and this is the way that this child is going to behave forever. When I look at it through the lens of needs, actually something opens up. There's a lot of possibility for both connection and for collaboration to actually find a solution that works for both of us. So if you'd like to, please take a screenshot of this, because in a moment, I'm going to ask you to do an exercise where you'll have to refer to this. I also believe this is going to be shared in the chat. So either of them, whatever works for you. But if you'd like to have a screenshot, please take a screenshot before I move on to the next slide. All right. If you haven't managed to get a screenshot, don't worry. It's going to be shared in the chat as well, so you can refer to that copy. Now, I'd like you to return to this reflection that we were doing just a minute ago. Return to the label that you've identified. And now, of course, you've done step one, which is what did the other person do or say that led you to assign this label to them? Or what do you see, hear, or remember that leads you to draw the conclusion that the other person, that the learner is maybe slow, that maybe the learner is shy, reserved. I heard privileged as a label. So whatever the label is, try and this is the first step that we've unpacked already to say, what did the other person do or say? Now, as the second step, I want you to look at the needs list and say, is there one or more needs that the person might be attempting to meet through this behavior? So what needs might this person be attempting to meet when they don't bring their homework to the class, when they're speaking loudly after the teacher said, it's time to keep quiet for 20 minutes? What needs might this person be attempting to meet? So you could either write it down for yourself or you could share it in the chat so that others can see it too. And remember, it's not so much about getting the exact need correctly. It's not about a correct answer. It's not about guessing the correct need. The important thing here is to orient ourselves towards the perspective of saying, what needs might this person be meeting? So it really doesn't matter. You won't know for sure that this is exactly what the need the other person is trying to meet. What is important is the attempt to kind of see, where is this coming from? VS says needs for authenticity, inspiration. Okay. So if you've identified the needs, what needs the student might have been attempting to meet, please put that into the chat. Yes. Could be a need for comfort. To be seen, recognized, for love and trust. Those are needs, yes. For learning. Okay, thank you so much. So now in a minute, I'm going to ask Lenin to reopen the breakout rooms you were in a little while ago. And this time, I'd like you to share in your breakout rooms. If you had any insight from unpacking the label to discover the observations and the needs, did you learn anything from actually taking a look at the label, then saying what is the behavior, and then saying what needs might the person be trying to meet? Was there any learning? Was there any insight? And the second question is, does guessing the other person's needs impact your perspective? Does it change how you see them at all? How? Yeah, what changed about how you see them, if it does? So again, you're going to have about 8 minutes for this, 4 minutes per person, and at the end of 8 minutes you'll be called back into this room. Lenin, are we ready to open the breakout rooms again?
Yes, I'm opening it.
Yes, let's go. Thank you. So those of you who have chosen not to go to breakout rooms, if there's anything you'd like to share here on the chat or anything you'd like to unmute yourself and say, there's space for that. And for those of you who are watching the live stream on Facebook, if there's anything you'd like to share with us, please put that into the comments and somebody will bring it back here. We're very open to hearing from you as well. Again, if you have questions too, they're welcome. Again, a reminder that if any of you want to share something, you can unmute yourself and speak here or put something into the chat. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, if you have a question, please leave it in the comments and we'll take it. All right, welcome back. We're going to give it another 30 seconds so everyone can return. All right, thank you so much everyone for coming back. I'd like to quickly hear from you about what you discussed in the breakout room. If you'd like to put in a summary in the chat, that would be great. Was there any insight about the learner's needs, and does that impact how you see them now as compared to when you see them through the lens of the label? So if you'd like to share that, please put that into the chat. And we have space for 1 or 2 people to share. So if you'd like to unmute yourself and speak, please put your hand up so the host can unmute you. Yeah, Vasudha says, we are not the center of everything. Let's look out for what's causing the behavior. Yes, Vasudha. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, because sometimes it can be, we might end up thinking that the other person is doing something because of something I did or said, or to cause trouble to me as the educator in this space. So there is likely to be something that's leading to them choosing to behave in a certain way. So yes, let's look out for what's causing the behavior. Let's look deeper. Poonam? Poonam, you can unmute yourself now and speak.
Hello.
Yes, hi Poonam.
नमस्ते मैम।
Yes, hi.
मैम ब्रेकआउट रूम में इस बार फिर से अजात जी मेरे साथ थे। उन्होंने मेरे से पूछा कि आप ने जो लेबल दिया था वो शाई था, तो अब आपको जो चीजें याद आ रही हैं कि आपको वो शाई, उसके बिहेवियर से आपको वो शाई लगी, तो आपको वो शाई क्यों लगे और उसके पीछे कोई कारण रहा होगा। तो आपको क्या लगता है कि वो क्या कारण रहा होगा? तो जो आपने चार्ट शेयर करा था उसको रीड करने के बाद मुझे ये लगा कि जो वो शाई फील कर रही है, मे बी उसमें एक कारण हो सकता है कि कुछ बच्चे ट्रेनर की रिस्पेक्ट के कारण भी कम बोलते हैं, और दूसरा कारण ये भी हो सकता है कि वो ये सोच रही हो कि अगर मेरे से कोई कुछ पूछ रहे हैं और अगर मैंने कुछ गलत जवाब दे दिया तो अदर स्टूडेंट्स मेरे ऊपर हंसेंगे, तो मे बी एक कारण सेफ्टी भी हो सकता है।
या
यस, तो जब अब मैंने ये ऑब्जर्व कर लिया है कि पर्टिकुलर बच्चे की जिसको मैंने ये लेबल दे दिया और उसको वहीं छोड़ दिया, तो अब जब मैंने ऑब्जर्व कर लिया है और मुझे ये पता चल गया है कि उसका जो रीजन है वो सेफ्टी हो सकता है, तो उसके लिए मैं सेफ्टी एनवायरनमेंट क्रिएट करूंगी। तो उसके लिए मैं उसको मोटिवेट करूंगी। डजंट मैटर कि आप गलत भी बोल रहे हैं तो कोई बात नहीं, हम गलतियां करके भी सीखते हैं, लेकिन आप बोलिए। तो उसको हम मोटिवेट करेंगे और उसको एक सेफ एनवायरनमेंट भी प्रोवाइड कराएंगे। उसको हम कुछ लाइव एग्जांपल भी दे सकते हैं कि कोई भी काम होता है, जैसे छोटा बच्चा ही होता है, हम चलना सीखते हैं तो कोई एकदम से नहीं हम चलना शुरू कर देते हैं, पहले हम पाँव के बल चलते हैं, घुटनों के बल, फिर खड़े होते हैं। तो गलतियां कर करके भी गलती करना कोई बुरी बात नहीं होती है। हम जब बार बार प्रयास करते हैं तो परफेक्शन जरूर आ जाता है, तो हम उसके लिए एक सेफ एनवायरनमेंट क्रिएट कर सकते हैं।
Thank you. So a child who is labeled as shy may have a need for safety, and yeah, creating an environment of safety or reassuring them about it can help them open up in the classroom. Um, one last comment we'll take, and VS, would you like to share?
I'd love to. Thank you so much. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go.
Thank you. I have been into nonviolent communication for a small period of time now, and the biggest insight in this session, like aha moment for me, was when we were looking at needs. The question that I asked myself, when you're talking about the motivation behind the behavior, the question I asked myself was, what needs of the student weren't being met? And to that, my answer was, okay, their need for authenticity, connection, inspiration might not be met. Whereas in the next slide, the question that you posed were what needs of, may this person be attempting to meet? And to me, there is a big difference between the statements. Both may be valid, but when I look at the needs they're attempting to meet right in that moment, then it becomes much smaller. And then my answer is like their need for order, they need to be seen, they need to celebrate themselves and play may not be met. So thank you so much for that, and that's a big insight for me.
Thank you, VS. I want to just acknowledge a couple of comments that have come in. So I see someone who says immediate action is to label, and to actionalize it might say it takes some time. And for some actions, automatically the need is visible, and for some, the need is never looked at. Yes, there are some actions that we may see or behaviors we see which and the needs beneath that might be quite obvious, and for some it might be harder. Again, as an educator, I can say, wait a minute, let me look at what needs this person is attempting to meet when they're doing this. Alka says the sense or lens of label needs to be removed. Understanding the psyche is important. Family environment also matters for shyness, low confidence. So again, what needs might be motivating might change from learner to learner. And I don't know if it's possible to remove labels entirely from our mind. What we can do is build a greater awareness of when we're labeling, and then say, can I unpack them to really see what's happening? I want to share, and I think these have come up already in some of the sharings that have been made so far. Why do we want to focus on needs in this context? Labels are very static. When I believe that a child is reserved or irresponsible, I'm believing that that child is like that all the time. I'm putting them into a box and saying, this is you. As human beings, we're a lot more dynamic than that. So labels are so static and they box a student in. Humans, on the other hand, are dynamic, and looking at it through the lens of needs help us appreciate all the different parts of someone that makes them who they are. Needs are also a point of commonality or connection. Even when someone does or says something that I don't agree with. I may not very much like that that there's a student who's making noises when the whole class is asked to do silent time. And at the same time, if I'm able to, if I take this perspective of what needs might they be trying to meet, I'm able to connect with them better than when I'm looking at, oh, it's wrong. This student is a class disruptor. It's wrong. They shouldn't be doing this. So going to needs helps me find a point of connection with the learner. And understanding why, that is the needs again, gives us more information and a new perspective to engage and collaborate. And I think that came up when Poonam was sharing. Now that I've guessed, as long as I was imagining that this child is shy, I just let it be. And when I thought about what needs might this person be meeting, is it that this child would really like to have a sense of safety in the classroom? It gives me a new perspective. And we heard her say that maybe this child needs some sort of reassurance to say it's okay to make mistakes. How can I create that atmosphere of safety so that the child is actually able to speak up in the class? So I'd like to leave you with this question for today. With your guesses about your learners' needs, whatever needs that you think they might be attempting to meet, what can you do to engage with them differently from here on? This is something that I'd like to leave you with, possibly something that you'd like to think about as you go back into your learning spaces and as you begin to get more aware of the labels that you're assigning to the learners. Once again, I want to repeat that labeling someone, it's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying rather than labeling someone, I want to actually unpack them to look at what information is this label holding. And getting to that information can help us walk towards creating some sort of a solution where that learner's needs can be met, where that learner can be included in our classrooms, in our learning spaces. Our labels and biases block us from being fully present to what is going on for the other person. So as long as I see a learner through the perspective of a label, I'm only seeing that part of them. And I'm really not able to pay attention to what's happening. Why are you doing this? Can you tell me more? So being more aware of this, of our labels and biases is really the first step towards actually connecting with them on a more compassionate level and saying, hey, what's up? What do you need support with? So thank you everyone for spending your Friday afternoon with me. This session on labels that I've just shared with you is a part of a larger program that I call Compassionate Classrooms. I work with educators, mostly school teachers, in supporting them to be more aware of how they can manage these stress points that show up in their learning spaces. So if you'd like to know more about this, please get in touch. My contact details are coming up shortly. And now I'd like to hand it back to Lamin. Lamin.
Hi Ranjita, yes. Thank you very much for this amazing session. So let's open for Q&A round in case anyone is sitting with question, any opinion, any thoughts you want to share. You can use the chat box, leave your comments. We can pick it up from there. Also, if you want to speak, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you to speak for yourself. Meanwhile, the poll is on the screen. Please take a moment and give us your valuable feedback. It will help us plan better for the future master classes. So anyone is sitting with any question, any opinion, please use the chat box and Ranjita can answer it from there.
If you have questions, if you have any thoughts, reflections, or anything else you'd like to share, I'd love to hear it from you. So please, I'm looking forward.
Meanwhile, please take the poll. And also, like I mentioned in the beginning, that this masterclass is conducted by Trainer Tribe every Friday at 4 p.m. We would love to have you on Trainer Tribe. So please be part of our community. I will share you the link in the chat box. Just a minute. So you can use that link and you can be part of the Trainer Tribe directly. We are on Facebook. So yeah, I guess there is no question. Yeah, so you can reach out to Ranjita. She has given her contact details on the screen. So in case you want to reach out further with any opinions, thoughts, you can reach out to her. And if you want to also have this conversation ongoing, please join us on Trainer Tribe. We can continue the discussion out there. Ranjita is also there with us on Trainer Tribe.
Yes, and certainly I'm very happy to continue this conversation on the Trainer Tribe forum. So if you have any questions, please bring it there and tag it to me. Ajat has a question. Any immediate tips to not label? Yes, I For me, it's about the first tip is to build awareness on when I'm starting to label. One of the ways I do that is to question all of my assumptions. If I look at someone and I think, oh, that's such a shy person, I ask myself, wait, what's the data I have? So that's kind of like a reminder that I like to use to say, wait, I don't want to believe that the label is the whole truth. Okay, thank you all so much for joining in. As we sign out, if you'd like to type in how you're feeling now as the session's complete, could be a single word or a phrase.
Vidya says there was a lot of takeaway from this session. Could you mention any one or two major takeaway from this session? You can, yeah, any one word or phrase you can mention in the chat box.
Thank you.
Winlin says never judge anyone.
Yeah.
Jyoti says enriched. Gita feeling nourished. Thank you. Very engaging session. Ajad says feeling peaceful.
Enlightened. Yeah, Vidya, yes, understanding the root of the label. Thank you. Poonam says, don't judge a book by its cover page. Srinivas, very nice session, but network is bad. I'm so sorry to hear that, Srinivas. And I think the recording is going to be up on the Facebook page if you'd like to revisit the parts that you had trouble hearing. So please do that if you're interested.
Yes, we do share the recorded version on YouTube. So you can visit the Quest Alliance Facebook. I'm sorry, YouTube, not Facebook. So you can go to the YouTube and look for Quest Alliance page. You will find all the masterclass recording there.
Words matter. Yes, Wintlin. Yeah. Alka says, excellent session presented well. Thank you, Alka. And thank you all very much. I'm so grateful you chose to join me on Friday evening. And thank you to Quest Alliance for having me over to share this with your network. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, thank you everyone for, it was 90 minutes long session, but you have stick throughout. So thank you everyone for that. And we look forward to seeing you on the next masterclass that will be on Friday again at 4 p.m. For more details, please join us on Trainer Tribe Facebook page. The link was given there. Yeah, the link is in the chat box. So use that link and you can stay updated and all the future related master classes. And thank you, Ranjita, for this engaging session. Like we can see in the comment box, there are lots of takeaway from this session. So I'm very happy to see this, and thank you for spending a Friday evening with us. And also to all of you for being an amazing participant and engaging throughout the session. So thank you very much, and I wish you to have a very happy weekend and happy Durga Puja, everyone.
Thank you.
So yeah, we will close the session shortly. We can close in few seconds. Thank you, everyone. Lenin, I think we can end the session. Thank you and see you next Friday. And like I mentioned in the beginning, please join us on Trainer Tribe. You can stay updated on all the future related master classes.